You might get a question like this in an interview regarding adding elements to the array. As you can see here, we must write a function which gets an array and an element and returns an array with this element at the end. And actually it sounds really easy, but you can solve it in different ways. This is why you must solve it correctly and at least tell interviewer the correct way. So typically beginners will use here array push, and then we're building something like this. So we have a function, for example append, and we're getting two arguments, our array and our new element. And what we're doing here, we're using array push and we're passing inside our L, and after this we're returning this new array. Then we just write here console log append, and here we're checking, okay, for example, we have our array 1, 2, and here our third element 3. Now let's check if it's working. We're reloading the page and we're getting 1, 2, 3, and you think that you built this function correctly. But here is the problem. Actually, I want to write here our array. So let's name it, for example, numbers, and we have inside 1 and 2. And now here inside append, I want to just pass our numbers. But after this, I want to console log numbers. We're reloading the page and we're getting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. What does it mean? We have this append function and we're returning here the array. And most people will think that when we're using this function, we're creating new array. This is why normally they might write new numbers, and here we're calling our append function. And we think, okay, we didn't modify our old array, but we just get new numbers because append function returns for us an array. But as you can see, these two arrays are completely equal, because actually array push modifies the old array and it doesn't create a new array. And this is typically a good example of bad code in your application. Why is that? Just imagine you have one part of your application and you have there this numbers array. Then at some point you're calling this append function to get new numbers. But then out of the blue you modified your old numbers array, which you didn't intend to do. This is why you think that in your application some magic can happen, just because the calling of this function modifies some data outside of this function. This is a bad approach. How we can fix it and make it better? We should not use here array push, it is not safe. What we want to use here instead, for example, spread operator. We can write here that we want to return a new array, and we want to spread all elements of our array that we are getting as an argument. And if you don't know what is spread, this is an ECMAScript 6 operator, these are 3 dots, and what we're doing here, we're spreading all elements of this array inside our new array, which essentially means that we're creating a copy of this array. Now we want to add this element at the end of our new array. This is why we just write comma element. Let's check this out now. I'm reloading the page and here we're getting another response. We're getting here 1, 2, 3 and here 1, 2, which actually means this single line will return for us new array, and our function is completely safe because we're not modifying any data outside of this function. This is why this implementation is much better if you are asked even something that trivial like pushing elements to the array. Also, we have exactly the same behavior with objects. If we are passing inside our function an object and we mutate it there, then we are mutating object outside of our function. And this is bad. And you can also use spread with an object to create a new object. In this case, we are on the safe side. And if you didn't know, this function like here is called pure, because first of all, this function will return the same result every single time when we are calling it with the same arguments. And secondly, it doesn't modify any variables outside of our function. This is why this is safe, pure function.